So before we get into talking about each movie, so we're gonna talk for 9 minutes exactly, 9 minutes for all 9 movies, and then at the very end we're gonna give our picks for our favorite, how we might have ranked the 9 best pictures. But where I thought we would start is what are our overall kind of observations for the 9 movies this year? I've got a couple ideas, but what kind of stands out for you guys?
I can go first here, since I'm the most egotistical of all of you. I think this is a pretty subpar, for me, Oscar Best Picture category for me.
Once I agree.
And I hate to say that, but I actually, this is the first time I saw all the movies. But I think there's some good movies, but there wasn't anything that blew me away. In fact, the only movie that blew me away this year, and I've told you guys a ton of times, and I'll get it out now, is I think the best picture of the year for me that's not even nominated was Blade Runner 2049. I think that was the best picture of the year, and it was a complete movie to me.
It had the whole package.
It had a full package, and it was thought provoking. It was good acting. It was everything. It was beautiful, and it was done by the same guy who did Arrival, which was, I think, should have been a best picture worthy.
It was,
but I think they should have won.
Oh, okay.
To me, it was that last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just think science fiction, for the most part, other than The Shape of Water, has a hard time winning and being nominated for these.
That's because it's so deep and scientific.
Well, it's the same thing, that puppeteers don't get nominated for actors, but they're doing such amazing performance, and actually, puppeteering is one of the first forms of acting.
So your big disappointment is that Blade Runner got snubbed.
Absolutely.
I think I 100% agree. Actually, that's
I think it should have won.
If we're talking about snubs, well, Colin, what if specifically when it comes to like what movies aren't on this Best Pictures list? What kind of sticks out for you? Are there any that you wish were on the list, or ones that were close for you?
Well, one that was given to me by Red Letter Media was A Ghost Story. I would have not seen that film unless Mike talked about it.
Story.
When a Ghost Story was such a artsy, phenomenal movie that I watched, and I agree with you about Blade Runner. I also would kind of throw in It.
Yes.
I that was just very nostalgic. It just brought me back to that era of time. And so I would like to see that on this list, but I'm very understanding of why it's not on there also.
Because it didn't have a political message.
Yeah, I think that's a good distinction, because we may go through, especially for our podcast or our video. It's not going to be a podcast that comes out later in the week, where we pick our winners for every Oscar category. There's kind of the distinction between not only do what we think will win versus what should win, but also what is our favorite, like our personal favorite, like, and what the distinction is between something that is personal, we can acknowledge as personally more significant, like It maybe, that has that nostalgia feeling, versus
That's
some of the
hits.
others.
There's also one more thing that I wish that could be in a category is for somebody that could get an Oscar for being a actor that could pick movies to be in the Best Picture, which I would give to Michael Stuhlbarg, who was in 3 of the films that are on the Best Picture.
I was gonna save this, but keep going.
Oh no, I'm just saying, like I was blown away when I saw him in all 3 of the films. I was just like,
me too.
You chameleon, man. He's
like Will Smith.
So Michael Stuhlbarg was in Shape of Water, Call Me by Your Name, and The Post. And last year he was in Arrival and Doctor Strange.
Oh.
So and that's also not mentioning a bunch of other things
Who
he
was
was
he in
in.
Doctor
He was in
Strange?
Fargo, I guess, too. I don't remember.
Yeah,
but
he's in Fargo.
so I also want to call out. There's a bunch of actors that so Stuhlbarg is the only one. I think he's like one of only 6 people ever to appear in 3 Best Picture nominees in the same year. Caleb Landry Jones, who was the brother in Get Out. He was also the billboard guy in 3 Billboards.
Oh,
He was the closest to getting 3 movies this year, but the Florida Project didn't get nominated, and that was on the bubble. So speaking of snubs, that would be one that I saw. It was pretty good. I agree it was not on
him.
it, but
I didn't realize that was him in Get Out.
yeah,
Boy,
I have a question
he's a
for
good
you,
actor,
Matt.
man.
yeah.
I have a question for you.
Tom Hanks.
Go ahead.
For the Florida Project, are you still happy that it is being showcased in some way with Willem Dafoe being nominated?
And again,
I'm happy.
again,
I'm happy it's
again.
getting acknowledged. I don't know if I would have nominated Willem Dafoe.
Why
though,
wouldn't
but
you nominate
You
that?
you give him a bone. Yeah.
Get out, am I? Back the formula.
So I want to run down the list though, because there's actually a bunch of people in multiple movies this year. So Timothy Chalamet, who's the star of Call Me by Your Name, who's nominated for Best Actor, he was also in Lady Bird
Yes,
as
yes.
the
As
other
the
boyfriend.
douche.
Bradley Whitford was in Get Out and The Post. Lucas Hedges was in
Wait, but Bradley Whitford is also in your favorite movie,
which one?
Billy Madison.
Billy Madison. Okay, he's in a lot of my
He's the
favorite
bad guy
things.
in Billy Madison.
Lucas Hedges was in Lady Bird. He was the gay boyfriend, the boyfriend who turned out to be gay. Mm-hmm. And then he's also in 3 Billboards as the son. A lot of
Oh
these
God,
are
I didn't realize that. Wow.
Tracy Letts, he's the dad in Lady Bird. He's also in The Post. He's Meryl Streep's brother.
Oh yeah.
And then
I didn't realize that either.
there's a couple other people who were like almost like extras, but
And-
there's actually quite a few people this year who doubled up in significant roles.
Oh yeah.
Even what's her name? Sasha Rooney. That was Lady Bird. She was in Loving Vincent too, which is really awesome.
Oh, she was?
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
it's
that.
awesome.
Okay.
Well, I didn't realize that Winston Churchill was also in Call Me by Your Name.
What?
Winston Churchill. He was in the background walking in Italy at the time.
Oh.
Okay. He was so live in the 80s. But
He's a little bit. Any
Said
other?
itself.
I've got a cut. So I thought it was interesting. So in 2017, the best pictures were. So last year, the best pictures were La La Land, Moonlight, which won Best Picture, Arrival, Manchester by the Sea, Hacksaw Ridge, Hell or High Water, Hidden Figures, Fences, and Lion. And I was surprised that both this year and last year, there's a movie about homosexual awakening. There's one token sci-fi movie, which you just brought up.
Yes.
There's a kind of brutal death movie that's kind of colored with humor all the way throughout, which I thought.
oh yeah, Lady Bird was very. Yeah.
There's a war. There's specifically a war film. There's a biopic, but there's also a biopic that's focuses in on a feminine character, a feminist character with Hidden Figures, and then I would argue The Post is kind of that way. There's a film about race that's also via a unique format that's not very conventional, and then there's ones about like parents and identity through your parents, so Lady Bird and Lion, which I thought was interesting. That there's sort of like a lot of similarities each movie.
Yeah. What about Phantom Thread?
Phantom Thread is the one. So I had an overall kind of observation for all of them, and I also had trouble with Phantom Thread for that.
Yeah.
So I felt like this year, across all the Best Picture nominees, was the year of like feeling trapped. Like the idea that, which you could argue is a
Get
common
Out.
element for any sort of conflict, but specifically when it, like how they, so many of these movies visualize being in like tight spaces or like helpless situations where they can't do anything.
Way to go, Matt. That's awesome. I totally agree with you.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe that's why Blade Runner didn't win. But you know
Yeah,
what?
maybe because it didn't fit the formula.
No, it didn't.
that I'm coming up with
if
now.
you think about it, though, it does have that same formula when Ryan Gosling's character feels like insignificant.
Yeah. Well,
Even
and
though in this huge world, but he lives in his apartment.
so I thought with Phantom Thread, what's her Alma, the
Check it
the
out.
model, she's kind of trapped in this crappy relationship, but she also is like she's like an underappreciated mannequin, basically, where
And then
she's
she
like
takes
stuck.
control.
Right. And so the difference between each one is kind of whether they either stay trapped or how they combat that
Do
feeling.
they
and
get
break
out?
Do they get
or
out?
not?
Yeah, exactly.
Whoa. Whoa.
That
The
does kind of blow my mind. I was not thinking that way. That's
Yeah.
a really good observation.
Well, and
Matt
maybe I'm just projecting based on the current day.
Matt
but
does project a lot.
Yeah.
You know, he puts his problems
I know.
onto mine, onto me, and I was like, "Come on, Matt,
I rear
you're
project.
projecting." as he's changing the reels.